Welcome to another episode of Branching Out with Sierra. Today we're on episode 12, Navigating Networks, the impact of relationships on growth and leadership with Cynthia Schneider. So what we're going to be talking about today is the importance of our relationships and the people we surround ourselves with on our personal and professional growth, as well as determining where we want to end up in our career path. It kind of takes us on a journey sometimes we don't even expect, and it allows us the opportunity to add value in situations we never thought we'd see ourselves in. So today I want to introduce Cynthia Schneider, the CEO of Tapa Virginia Regional Chamber. I'm going to take a moment to share with you a little of her background before I bring her into the conversation. So Cynthia graduated from high school in 1975 and then went off to James Madison University. But then she moved to Kansas, where she earned an associate degree in biblical studies and leadership. Though that program wound up not attaining accreditation, she did end up spending 15 years at that time in ministry and volunteer work. And that work for her continues today. She was married in 1982 and had 4 children, and she later took a part-time data entry position. And in that role, she grew with the company, becoming director of operations and helping it become a multi-million-dollar enterprise. When she found herself unemployed in 2014, she had the opportunity to kind of reassess her future and believed she had several more decades of living to go and free of the demands of child rearing, which was a very important part of her life up until that point. She knew she didn't want to retire. So she took advantage of a grant and went to Laurel Ridge Community College here locally in 2015 and 16, earning her associate degree in general studies with a concentration in business. With that newfound confidence, she applied for an entry-level position within a friend's business, which we might talk a little bit about, which ultimately led to her being hired as the Director of Finance and Administration with the Tapa Virginia Regional Chamber. And after 4 years, she was asked to be the Chamber's Chief Operating Officer, then ultimately becoming the CEO in 2019, which wasn't long before I met her, actually. So at the time, I didn't even know how new you were to that role. Yeah. So welcome, Cynthia. Thank you so much for being here today. I'm so excited to chat with you about lots of different areas of leadership. I know you are seen as a great leader in our community, so I'm excited to hear some of your thoughts on kind of the relationships and your journey to where you are today. But the first question is always the same, and that is, tell me when you first identified yourself as a leader. What was that moment like for you?
What I remember really is the first time I led. That was what I thought I would focus on, because I was in the first grade. Interestingly, it was the first year of integration. And the little boy behind me had never been to preschool or kindergarten. This was his first year in a public school setting, and he didn't know how to put his name on his paper. And so the teacher asked me to help him. And so I said, do it just like her. And so he did. And he wrote Carol Hill in the top right-hand corner of his paper. And that's the first moment I remember leading something. And it made an impact on me. I think about how I didn't give him the best instructions, right? I don't know, but that's the first moment I remember leading. So that's the first time I remember leading. And then I just always remember having a responsibility to lead, and I think that's because of the example of my parents.
Okay.
My parents were entrepreneurs. They were very active in the community. My father led many, many community organizations, and so I think it's just ingrained in me that service is a part of life. And so I have held, I guess you would call them leadership roles throughout my life. When I was thinking about this more, I thought about it's never a one-person thing either, right? Leadership is often a collaboration. So my next thing I remember is at 8 years old, my father helped to start a Little League football program.
Okay.
And so the boys were getting to play football. And so us girls, we decided we wanted to have a cheerleading squad. And so we formed a cheerleading squad together.
Oh, wow.
And so I was part of that, cohort of girls, saying we want to do something and becoming a cheerleader. And that's pivotal for me because I think it's kind of the hallmark of my life is to be an encourager. And so since my youth, I have encouraged others by cheering them on to do the best that they can do. And so I was a cheerleader from the time I was 8 all the way through high school. And I think that's what my role as CEO, I really call myself the Chief Encouraging Officer, because I think that is one of the greatest things a leader can do is encourage others to be their best and to find their full potential and to show their unique capabilities and abilities.
Well, I think about how you encouraged me when I started my business and what a big impact that had. And I picture every ribbon cutting, I see your arm go up, like you're literally cheering them on. You're their biggest fan, right?
And that doesn't get old. Like, I really feel it. My background after ministry was business for 25 years. And so I really understand what it means to run a business and to start a business. And so when I see somebody taking that step and get to celebrate the moment that they are, launching, it's what gets my blood rolling.
Yeah. Well, I have kept that picture as my desktop image since the day of my ribbon cutting. It is still when I go to set up and speak at any location and I hook up my HDMI, it pops up on the screen all big and everybody can see that day. But I can feel the emotion.
You had such an amazing turnout of people that support you and love you.
Yes.
And I think that's what today's all about, right?
That's
networking and building relationship. And I have watched you do that so well as you've launched your business and grown so well.
Thank you. And you've modeled it for me.
Thanks.
So tell me a little bit about your journey to where you are today. And I know there are a lot of layers to it. But if you could give us an idea of some of those pivotal moments and how relationships also kind of led to your eventual role as CEO where you are today.
So at 57, my 25-year career in specialty food manufacturing ended abruptly. And I was fortunate to be able to take a sabbatical, step back and say, what do I want to do in life? Do I want to finally be a midwife? I thought about it. I really did think about it. And I thought, I don't think I have the strength to stay up and deliver babies all night long. So I laid that one down pretty quickly and came to terms with I was never going to be a midwife. But I do get to be a midwife in helping birth businesses.
Yes.
So I kind of shift my focus there, right? But so at that time, as mentioned, I went back to school, and mostly because my development in business came from learning on the job. The owners of the company that I worked for were fantastic of just giving me the opportunity to learn, trial by fire. People would show me how to do something, and then I would just take it and run with it. And so learning by doing is great, but you don't always feel confident when you go out into another circle. Do I have the right vernacular? I could do it there. Can I do it in another setting? And so I needed to go back and kind of put some credentials to my hands-on experience. And so that's what Laurel Ridge did for me, really kind of regained confidence and put some substance to my hands-on learning. Yeah. So at that time, and this is, I think, an important part of networking, I was very hesitant to go back out and put my I don't even know if I'd ever written a resume prior to this, because when I started in my career, I don't recall that you had to have a resume. It actually came from a relationship. Okay. One person told somebody else about me, who told somebody else about me, and I met this woman who had just launched her business, and that's where it went from there. Just, meeting someone at Story Hour at Hanley Library when I was a homemaker and mother full time. A woman met me. She passed my name on to this woman who had started her business, and that's how we met, and then developed a friendship and a business relationship from there. So then fast forward to having left that business, I was looking for new opportunities, and it was daunting. And my husband would just say, just take the next step. You never know where it's going to lead. Yeah. And so I noticed that our good friends, TWG, had an opportunity for a CSR, customer service representative, and I thought, well, I could do that. I'm great with people. I love to build customer relationships. And so I reached out to my friend who had worked with me 25 years before. So again, this is where your network, you just keep those doors open, you keep in touch with people, and it comes back around. It could be 25 years. And literally, I'm pretty sure it had been 20 years since I had worked with this person. I credit a lot of my skill set to her, just little things that she taught me early on about budgeting and building a budget on a spreadsheet. And I literally ran a $15 million business on an Excel spreadsheet.
That's impressive.
The inventory at that time. We did have a really strong software piece, but there was another part of kind of the moving parts of it was on an Excel spreadsheet because of what I had learned under her. So I reached out and I said, hey, I'd be interested in that role. And she was like, Schneider, that's entry level, right? And I'm like, yeah, but I'm starting over, so I don't care. I'd want to try something new. So I went into the interview, and the position, there was another position actually that they interviewed me for that they thought I might be better suited for. And in that interview was a woman who was actively involved at the chamber. So I didn't even know that, but I did not get that job. But very quickly after that, I get this call about coming into the chamber for the Director of Finance Administration. And so, there we go. Yeah. Just, layers of just you take the next step, it opens a door. And so went to the chamber, had my first interview there, and thought that I was going to ride into the sunset behind the scenes as the Director of Finance and Administration.
And here you are.
And here I am today. So.
But that also, speaks to the importance of stepping outside of your comfort zone, right? And had you not stepped out of your comfort zone, would you be the CEO of the chamber today and be able to have that impact on all of these businesses and be a midwife, right?
Yes,
to all of these businesses.
So I want to share this because it's such a visual that I think helps, especially with your business and growth and plans. So when I left that job, I was like, what am I going to do with my life? It was literally starting over at 57. And I just actually become an empty nester too. So my whole life was kind of like, there was like really a blank canvas before me of what I wanted to do. And I looked at my mother, who was at that point in her 80s, and she was pretty healthy still at that point. I thought, I will probably live at least another 30 years. And maybe longer, because I had lived a much easier life than my mother had lived. And so then I looked back 30 years and I went, wow, I'm going to live that life again without the demands of raising a children, without the demands of building a business. And I was like, I can't stop, right? I've got too much life to live ahead of me. And so that's what began to get me kind of thinking forward. And when I look back now, as painful as it was to have to make those changes and to, become something new, the little black plants, pots you get your plant in at Lowe's, right? Yeah. So what I visualize now is that God just literally plucked me out of that plant pot and put me into a huge porcelain, beautifully painted pot that has allowed me to grow and flourish in ways I could have never imagined for myself.
That is a beautiful analogy.
And I'm so thankful, and I feel so privileged to have these opportunities that I get to meet people and connect people. Connecting is that is the thing that gets my blood going. When I can make a connection with someone or help them make a connection that will help their business grow or provide the resources they need, that's my day.
Yeah.
If I go to a networking event, that's what I'm looking for. Right.
I love that. And it's so interesting that you say, when you are plucked out of that can be a very difficult time. And that's how I was feeling when I was leaving the world of teaching, right? And it's like, what am I going to do with my life? Starting all over again, right? Different age, but starting all over again. But then when you find out, where you end up, you were meant to be there.
Yeah, I think that's just a really thing to highlight today is, right? It doesn't matter what age you are. If you have to start over, your canvas gets wiped clean, and you've got to start over. It's hard, especially when you're younger, to think, is there what could happen? Like now, I've started over at least 3 times now in my life, and so I know that there is future after that darkness, and better about how to get through it, right? How to kind of garnish the resources that help keep me strong through those things, keep me positive, keep me looking forward.
Yeah, but seeing that as an opportunity, I think, is important. A lot of times people kind of get stuck in it and they can't see the positive opportunities ahead of them, right? But I felt like I needed to think of what skill set did I gain in that stage of my life that can help propel me forward now where I am. And there's always something to glean, right, from the past, a lesson learned that I can take and use.
I think that part that plays into that for me was when I was in ministry, and the ministry that I was involved in, and this was very common in the 1970s and 80s. There were a lot of parachurches, they call them, ministries that started outside of the common denominational ministries that had been the stalwart of Christianity for so long. Mm-hmm. And when that ministry imploded, I lost my identity, had to start over. But I learned so many lessons from that space.
Yeah.
I learned so many good things amidst a lot of hurt as well. Yeah. So many good things that I learned that have helped me today to not be so short-sighted.
Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was pretty, when you're young, my perspective was pretty narrow at that point. And so had I not left that space, I think I would have maintained. In fact, a lot of my friends that are still there, like their perspective is very limited. Mm-hmm. And so it allowed me to open my eyes to a lot of other possibilities, a lot of other perspectives that have enriched my life in ways that I could have not imagined it.
Yeah.
So sometimes you have to leave a place that is too binding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was thinking about the types of relationships that we can have, and specifically a mentorship relationship. I know you've mentioned several times an individual that kind of poured into you and gave you the skill set that you've been able to use. Can you talk about how mentorship from someone else has really helped support you in your professional journey, and now how you are able to serve as a mentor through your role as the CEO?
My best mentor, I would say, is my husband.
Oh, that's wonderful.
He is such a grounding point in my life and helps me when I'm an overthinker and when I'm thinking way too much. And he's actually a deep thinker, but he can just help me let me get it all out on the table, and then help me sift through and get to the point of focus that needs to be had. So he's really my greatest mentor, and he would not think of himself that way, right? Yeah. But he teaches me so much. He is a quiet, resilient leader who has had to reinvent himself a number of times in his life, has led us so well through some pretty deep changes in life. But he's my best mentor, and I think just by being a friend and living an example of life, that's how he mentors me. He just lives a life. When I want to maybe get a little, I don't know, wild isn't the right word, but he just grounds me.
Cynthia Schneider as wild.
No,
I can't imagine
just get off track. He just really, grounds me. So that's my first. I have a number of good friends who have been my friends since my youth, who we may not talk. There's been times in our lives we hadn't talked for years. And then our lives will intertwine again. And especially in the last about 8 years, there's a number of women that I've reconnected with from our youth who are speaking into my life. They're a little older than I am, and so they're helping lead me into the age of wisdom. And they're energizing me. I mean, some of my friends are in their 70s and 80s, and they are going so strong. And so they really help me to see that I can continue to be more than I am. That I'm not laying it down at 67 years old, right?
Yeah.
So just being friends, being there, being able to just reach out, even after years and say, hey, I'm going through this. Could you help me?
Yeah. So when you said that, I was thinking about, that saying about you being the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I'm going to give a preview of the challenge that I'm going to give folks today, because I really do want people to think about who those 5 people are. But do you think that's true of you?
No.
Okay.
There's so many people that have played such an influential part of my life. And as I prepared today and started thinking back to my first grade teacher, my cheerleading coach in high school, she saw something in me that I did not see in myself.
Yeah.
And she held me accountable and pushed me to be more than I thought I could be. Mentors in college, that came alongside me in the hard times and walked through hard times with me and guided me. And then today, again, in business, I would say too, in business, the man that I worked with for so many years, his tenacity really taught me a lot, and his willingness to take a risk. I'm not a risk taker, and so walking alongside of him and his wife when they took the risks that they had to grow a business, I learned so much from walking alongside of them and being afforded the privileges to learn and grow alongside them that I did. So I never thought of mentorship as something really intentional as I see it. It's kind of become a thing that there's a very intentional mindset of mentorship. And I think when I was growing up, you just walked alongside your parents or your coaches, and that's the training came kind of organically.
Yeah, without putting a lot of thought into. Yeah, I understand that completely. So obviously, it sounds like there have been a lot of people that have impacted your journey. Yeah. So and I don't even know that it's that. I think it's some of us don't have a ton of relationships with a ton of people. We might have like a core group of friends. So for example, the ladies that are coming back into your life right now, maybe you're spending more time with them than you have in the past or for a really long time, and maybe you're seeing that they have shaped you in a different way now, because you're spending more time with them. So I think about some people over the years where I kind of had to leave behind relationships, where I felt like either they were holding me back, that I was trying to propel myself forward, always trying to grow and look at the next opportunity for growth. But they were very stuck and okay with being stuck, didn't really want the support of others, right? And so I felt like I needed to think more carefully about who I was spending my time with and make sure that, they were adding value to me and not always taking something from me. Does that make sense? Yeah. So that's kind of how I see it. If I think about, if I totaled up the number of hours I spend with different people in my life, are the 5 people that I spend the most time with the people I strive to be, like Jay Foreman, for example. You know how much I look up to him. I try to spend as much time as I can with that man because I have so much to learn from him. So I try to be intentional about that. Yeah. Okay, so back to the mentorship piece a little bit, because you talked about mentors in your life, but let's think about the mentor that you are for so many businesses in this community. What's that like?
Oh, well.
No pressure.
Yeah, I don't think of it that way. I just do what I do. And I do get the opportunity to have some very intentional mentorship. So I'm involved in the Shendo University Leadership Academy. And a part of that is their LAMP program, Leadership and Mentoring Program. So I've had the opportunity of having, I think I'm on my 4th mentee at Shendo University. So I get to meet with students there on a regular basis and share my life and my story with them and help them to make decisions. I just recently read a book that really highlighted that, how pivotal an adult's decision guidance can be to a young person who you just assume they know what you know, I think, and just saying, is that the best choice for your life? Is that really where you want to end up? Which is a question I often ask business people when they're starting to get into business. The first question I ask is, what kind of life do you want to live? Right? It's not about what kind of business you want to run. It's what kind of life do you want to live. That's the first thing you have to decide. Because I've watched business owners get swallowed up by their business and lose their life. Style.
Yes.
And so to me, that's the first question you have to consider, is what kind of life you want to live and what are you willing to sacrifice to get there.
And design the business in a way that supports that lifestyle.
So having lived that and watched that, I feel that's a form of mentorship I'm able to bring to people, to business owners. And again, having literally worked in most every role of running a business, other than I wasn't on the production line. They didn't want me out there. The girls would laugh at me if I tried to make a box. But I understand what it takes to do the job, and so I'm able to help people think beyond what they can see. And I think that's really the role of a mentor. You can't be what you can't see.
Yeah.
And so helping someone see beyond where they are is, I think, a big role of a mentor.
You can't be what you can't see. I've never heard anyone say that
Yeah.
before. Is that a Cynthia-ism?
No, it is not. I just Anita Roble, my coworker, reminded me of it, and I can't remember who I've heard saying it recently, but it's
people are always watching,
Yeah.
right? You're
Yeah.
always
Yeah, and I think that's really what mentorship is are you living in a life? This is when you talk about what this podcast is about, right? It's your influence and your impact everywhere you are, right? Not just on the podium, right? Not just in a boardroom.
Yeah.
What example are you living before your children? That's when my children are all grown. They're in their 30s to 40s now. And when I look at their lives, hands down, it is what they gleaned from living alongside of us, not anything I said that made them who they are today.
Yeah.
I can see that in them. They all have an amazing work ethic, and I think that's because my husband and I have an amazing work ethic. Right?
Yeah.
Work has been a big part, and my husband his background is German, right? And I know it just comes from that deep German work ethic that they have. So that's how I look at leadership and mentorship, is doing my best to live a life that would be exemplary to others, to live according to the core values that I hold in life.
Thank you for sharing that. So mentorship, it can be so deep, right? Now I think about networking can be so deep as well, but only when done appropriately. I think of, all the networking opportunities out there, and I didn't know the world of networking. I didn't know the world of business until I was in it, right? Didn't know it existed. So going from education to the business world, I needed to surround myself with people who knew this world and could really help guide me. But I would love to hear from your perspective, in order to be an effective networker and really take advantage of the opportunity to get out there and build those powerful relationships that lead to growth, right, and opportunities for folks. Do you have any tips for effective networking? If someone comes out to a chamber event, how it can be a great use of their time? Because I know when I first started, I filled all day, every day with networking, and I know I did that for a long period of time, and then I started to see all those little seeds that I planted. They started to really grow into great relationships, but had to nurture them, right?
Yes.
So can you share a little bit about your networking tips?
For me, networking with a purpose. So when I come to a networking event, I'm not coming there for really a social event. I'm coming there with a purpose. Is there one person in the room that I might be able to help today, or learn from today? So that's what I'm looking for when I'm in the room. I don't want to just shake hands and say hello I'm not a superficial person. I'm just having purpose is really important to me, and connecting with a purpose is really important to me. And so if I make one connection at a networking event, I kind of go, okay, I can go home now, because that's my goal. When I've seen that I made a personal connection, I helped someone or helped them make a connection, then I feel like my night is done.
And this is where we're so similar, except I'm very introverted. So when I first started, I would just stand in the corner and just watch everybody and take it all in until I felt like there was a circle that appeared comfortable enough for me to step into and have a conversation. So what I would do is I would always set a goal. It used to be 1, now it's 3.
Okay.
If I get 3 connections and I walk out of there, I feel good about it, but I have to resist the urge to hang out with the people I already know. Yeah. So I walk in, and it's so funny because the people that know me well will say, did you already connect with your number of people? Are you able to talk to me yet? Because they know, I'm not going to talk to you until I've done what I'm here to do. And then we can socialize, right?
Yes.
But I talk about networking with intention all the time, too.
I think I'm an introvert by nature, actually, myself. And I'm the same way. I'll look and watch the room first, kind of look for, is there someone I see that's not comfortable that I can go help make comfortable?
Yeah.
So...
It's funny. I was asked to speak at an event a couple of weeks ago, and they asked me if I'd come share some networking tips. So I did 10 networking nuggets, just quick, easy tips. And one of the things that I feel like people don't necessarily think about is their body language when they're out networking, and making sure that they keep an open circle and not have a closed conversation where we're facing one another like directly, right? But open to people, because there are a lot of other introverts out there that are looking for that opportunity to step in and won't do so unless, right, your body language says, I'm open to someone joining this conversation.
Yeah.
And even the impact of finding that one person in the room where, like, that was me back in the day, right? You see them standing in the corner. I'm like, okay, I want to go bring them into my conversation and make sure they feel comfortable, because that was me.
Yeah. Another one for me is I'm not good with names. I've tried all the, games they teach you to, and I'm just not good with names. I think I think because I'm so focused on making the connection that when the name goes, it kind of goes over my head, and then I have to ask it again, and then I spell it for me, or still doesn't work. And so I just own it now. Yeah. And so when I go up to somebody and say, I know I should know your name, but I've forgotten, please remind me your name. And I said, it'll probably take me 3 to 7 times. Yeah. But if I have a conversation with you and you tell me about your life, I'll remember every bit of that. Yeah. I'll remember you have 3 children. I'll remember you have a dog. I'll remember where you went to college. I just don't always remember the name too well. And so I've just owned that. And instead of getting embarrassed by it or not going up to somebody because I'm embarrassed I don't remember their name, I just use that as a starting point. Yeah. Same thing with if I don't remember the whole story, but I know I've seen your face. Yeah. And then that's the game. Okay, I know we've met. Where did we meet? And then we make it a game, and then that just leads to more conversation. Yeah. So those are, kind of icebreakers that I utilize, is making that personal connection and then expanding from there.
So I'm terrible with names too, and what I have always learned is if I can use their name 3 times in the interaction, it sticks. So when they first introduce themselves, I specifically listen to repeat their name back to them and say, like, nice to meet you, Cynthia. So that's number 1, right? And then if I can insert it into the conversation, just naturally,
if I can remember it from the first time you said it, I'd do good.
Exactly. And then closing out the conversation, I always end with the name. That's what it takes to solidify it for me. But I feel like that is one of the most common problems that people say to me is I can't remember names. I think everybody's there.
It's one of the nice things about the chamber world, because most people have to wear a name tag, and so that really helps a lot.
And you do the quick glance real quick. Like,
so we should just all always wear name tags in the world, right?
I think so. It's helpful. So can you tell me a little bit about how you approach building new relationships that really bridge demographic and generational gaps? That's a big thing right now, the generational gaps within the business community. What does that look like?
Well, going back to, as I said, when I was a young woman in ministry, I had a very short perspective, right, of what was right and who was right, and I had the right way.
Yeah.
And then I learned that there was, I didn't
you knew it all.
I did. I had life pretty much in a little box with a dough on top, and and then that imploded, and I found out I did not have life as neatly packaged as I thought I did. And so that has really helped me to this day. Okay. To understand that every person has a unique gift and calling on their life, and a unique perspective that brings value to the conversation. And so it really helps me to approach people that I already know may have a different perspective than I do, but I want to learn from that perspective. I want to see if what I'm missing. And so when I bring that perspective to a conversation, especially the hard conversations that go on in our life today, it really helps me to not have such a dogmatic stance that I can't be inclusive and understanding of other people. Yeah. I think fortunately for me, having 4 children in the span they are in, it helps me understand a younger generation today, because my coworkers, many of them could be my children. Many of the people that I work with today could almost be my grandchildren, right? And but that doesn't bother me. I think we bring so many good things to each other. The vitality and the understanding of technology that most young people have, that's just axiomatic for them, really enhances me, and I just own that too. I'm not afraid if I'm not understanding something. And I think this is an important part for folks in the seasoned areas of their life, is to just not be afraid to say, I don't get that, I don't understand that.
And that's
and then
okay.
hopefully that gives that younger person permission to say that as well.
Yeah.
Right? It's okay to not understand. None of us know everything. And I think that's a really important part of leadership is you cannot know it all.
Yeah.
Right? The important thing is, are you gathering the people that do have the answers, that are educated or experienced in a certain area around you to help gird you up. And that's something I really intentionally do at my work at the Chamber, because there's so many areas that legislation and politics are not a background that I've had for advocacy, and so I've had to really push myself to stretch into those areas and learn more. But I've gathered people around the Chamber that have insight into those areas and that are more connected to the people that are making decisions on state and local levels that can help bring me perspective. Or I just go to the people making the decisions and say, help me understand that decision, so that I'm keeping an open perspective.
Yeah, I like what you said about that, because oftentimes, I talk about growth all the time. That doesn't mean that every single thing I see as something that's not a strength for me right now, that I'm going to go out and learn all about that. Yeah. It's about surrounding myself with people who do have that skill set and can support me too. And I think that that's important to realize, especially with the generational differences. There's a lot of frustration when I go into some of these organizations with the way in which different generations are thinking, and I just don't understand them and why they're thinking that way. But what you said about being able to find the value and the strength in that, and their perspective and what they actually are bringing to the table that maybe a certain generation doesn't have to offer, I think that that's an important thing to bring into the conversation.
And I think for me, culturally as well, I've had the privilege of traveling outside of the country and being in some situations that are very, very, very different than the United States, and my cultural background, my religious background, and where I'm at today, and my practicing of my faith is different than the mainstream of many folks. And so those things have, I believe, also helped me to be more open and accommodating and understanding of what it's like to be on the outside, perhaps of a norm that's in the throes of change.
Let's think a little bit about the exciting things that have gone on at the Chamber. Is there a specific initiative that you've spearheaded that you're really proud of, something that really exemplifies your commitment to bridging community and commerce that you talk about?
There are two so far that I feel like are I'm the most proud of. One was the very first job I had when I came to the Chamber was to do a study on whether we should stay in the building in downtown Winchester.
Okay.
It was an aging building attached to a church, and so a Shendo University MBA program advised us. They had done a study on the Chamber and where it was going, and they suggested that that building was not representative of where the Chamber would be going, to be more innovative and to be a regional chamber. We were no longer just the city of Winchester's chamber. We were a regional chamber. At that time, that was 2015, it was not a good time to sell the building. And so when that opportunity arose in 2021 is when the conversation started again. We took that opportunity, and the collaboration with the Winchester Regional Airport positions us to be right in the center of our region that we serve. So having helped that to happen, another part of that I'm really proud of is that I think it was like the 1980s, probably, there was a capital campaign that took place that allowed the Chamber to buy their first building.
Okay.
And so those funds were what were invested in the building that we had. And so when we sold that building, we committed as a board that those funds would be set aside and protected as an asset for the Chamber. They would never be used for operations, because the community and the business community entrusted us with those funds to have something that would allow the organization to be sustainable. And so we put together a strategic plan for protecting those finances, and we set a 5-year goal, and within 1.5 years we've met that goal of rebuilding that fund to what it was originally and having it set aside. And so we're in a really stable financial position, stronger than the Chamber's ever been. So I'm really proud of that, and I'm really excited about being at the Chamber's new offices in the Winchester Regional Airport. We are in the left wing, where we will help businesses soar to new heights.
I love it.
On Friday, we saw the culmination of what we thought this would bring to us. There is a new company coming into Winchester, Fly Adventure.
Okay.
They were there Friday to sign their lease.
Oh, wow.
They're going to bring a number of jobs and new opportunities for growth and development in aviation to our community. And so we were able to be the hospitality committee when they came into the space. I was able to do the notary public. I don't know if you know that the Chamber does notary work, and we sign certificates of origin for exports that are going out of the country. So there are two really unknown things that the Chamber do that are really huge to some of our businesses, being able to export their products. So it was the culmination really of this partnership between Winchester Regional Airport and the Chamber to elevate business in the region. And I think being in a brand new facility like the airport, it's innovative. We're going to also be able to offer a community business center that will allow gathering space by our members and the community at large, and we get to be a part of that and be the hospitality committee.
So that is
group.
so
that's one.
Okay.
And then the second is the Leadership Academy that we've expanded. So, we've had the community leadership program for now 28 years. And probably about 5 or 6 years ago, and I was playing with letters. I love acronyms. And so I thought the ABCs of leadership. We knew we wanted something for youth.
Yeah.
We knew we wanted to expand on mid-level management type of services, and then our community leadership program. So I came with this concept of the Leadership Academy, the ABCs of leadership: arising leadership, business leadership, community leadership. And this summer, as you know, helping us with session 1 in leadership development of our young students, rising juniors and seniors in the high school level, we were able to launch our Rising Leadership program. We had 19 students from all 3 regions, every high school, homeschoolers, private school, all came together and were exposed to over 20 different industries and career opportunities, all supported by the business community. Every penny that went into it allowed those students to come with no cost to themselves. And we've also set aside some of the funds because of the generosity of many of the hosts and our members. We had enough funds left over to set aside, and we're beginning a foundation. Well, we have a foundation, but we're beginning a scholarship fund in the Top of Virginia Regional Chamber Foundation for young people that will start focusing on building and bringing back scholarships to the region for young people going into business.
Oh my gosh. I love that program, of course. And I think that was because it is the perfect intersection of my two worlds, right? My background in education and then leadership. So being able to support, let me just say, day one of that, I can just say it restored so much hope for me. And being able to see, I joked with them that I needed to bring them along to some of these organizations I work with.
Yeah,
because
we had some amazing young people in that group.
They blew my mind. I was so impressed. I couldn't get over it. I was speechless throughout that time with them.
But we had students who literally were, hardly said a word the entire sessions, who grew exponentially while they were there. And then we had kids who were already such amazing natural leaders that didn't realize it.
Yeah.
Which is really the goal of the program.
Yeah.
Right, is to help young people see that you are a leader wherever you are.
Wherever you are.
Right. And to give them the confidence to be the person that steps up and steps out.
Yeah. Well, thank you for creating that program. It's wonderful. I love the ABCs of leadership. So if people want to get involved in any capacity in supporting with the Arising Leadership Program, maybe sponsorship, whatever it may be, can you just also highlight ways people can get involved in those 3 programs?
Sure. So the Rising Leadership Program, which is for rising juniors and seniors in the high school level, that takes place in the summer, second and third weeks of June, I believe it was. And the application process for that will open up in January. We choose the students. We expect that it may become rather competitive in the years to come because it is such an amazing opportunity. So there will be an application process, and there is a committee that will choose the students. And again, we're looking for those students who just need the confidence to know that they're leaders. Some children already get that.
Yeah.
They get those opportunities already in their families or in their school systems. And so we're really hoping to reach that next level of student that just needs that little extra, yes, you are a leader, and identifying themselves that way.
Yeah.
So, and then sponsorship is open to that. Anytime someone can donate to that fund and the foundation, or be a sponsor of that program specifically. The Business Leadership Program takes place in February. We're working on what that program will look like this year. We've been doing Life Leader 360 the last few years. We're still assessing whether we'll do that again this year or whether we should shift to something different and go in another direction for this session. That program will change just based on the needs of the members of the chamber.
That makes sense.
And then the Community Leadership Program is just about to kick off. It starts on the third week of August. We meet on the third Friday of every month, as we have for 28 years. And again, sponsorship is available to that. And you can learn anything you need to know about the Chamber at regionalchamber.biz. And it's regionalchamber.biz, not Winchester Chamber, which is in Winchester, Massachusetts. It is regionalchamber.biz. We represent the city of Winchester, all of Clark County, and Frederick County, Virginia.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Hopefully folks will get involved.
Yeah.
So leading the chamber and maintaining all of these wonderful relationships you've built can also be a little time consuming. So tell me a little bit about what balance looks like for you in life today. Do you believe balance is possible? Have you achieved it? Tell me a little bit about that.
I don't think there's like a 50-50 balance in life.
Yeah.
There's always going to be times where certain things are more demanded of you. And so for me, what works for me at this point, I really guard my mornings.
Okay.
And this started in manufacturing because, you'd get in there, you'd think you had your day set, the night before. You walk in and a machine stopped working, and then the labeler was down, and so the production line had to stop, and everything had to change course, right?
Yes.
And so then you're putting out fires for 3 or 4 hours, and then at 4 o'clock when everybody left the production lines, you'd finally go, now I can get my work done.
Yeah.
And then you'd work till 7 o'clock at night or later, right? And so what I learned was that I could not guarantee that on the back end of my day, I would be able to accomplish the personal things that I needed to for myself.
Right.
So I really guard my mornings. So my mornings always include time of devotionals. This year, and you'll be happy because you're my accountability for this one. Remember, I am on day 222, I think it is, of reading my Bible app every day.
Wow. Good job. That's awesome.
I have a woman in New York, actually, that I met, that we are reading the Bible together, and we meet weekly, and we're kind of accountable to each other. And each day after we read, we have a little section we write about something we learned that day. So that's something I'm doing in my personal life for mentoring this year. And having that accountability partner is clutch.
Yes.
Right? There are so many days that I would not do it if Renee wasn't watching.
Yeah.
Right? So
I understand that.
Yeah, and I'm getting a lot out of it. So having devotional time in the morning, I work out usually 4 days a week. I try to work out. I give myself a break a couple days, so I have a little bit of space, because I'm a little like you. I like to have my list, and I like to make sure I checked it off, but I give myself a little breathing room because of my schedule. There's a lot of mornings that I can't afford the time to do all the things that I like to do in the morning. Just a little bit of time with my husband, and then I'm off for the day. So that's my big thing is guarding my time, making sure that there's like 3 really major things I do. First thing I do in the morning is drink water. I was not a good water drinker, and when I reset my life in my 50s, one of the things I made religiously, I drink 64 ounces of water religiously every day. And
wow.
So
I have some work to do there.
So that's my very first thing. And the way I do it, this is what really helps me, because I'm not a good water drinker. And so if left to my own devices, it would be the whole day and I'd go, I haven't had any water today. So I have a 32-ounce bottle that I fill before I go to bed, and it's sitting by my bed, and I drink that while I'm doing my devotional in the morning. I drink my water as I work out, and then I refill it before I leave for work, so that I have it with me at all times to get that other 32 ounces down. And quite often that's not till I'm driving home at the end of the day, but it's with me. And so then I can get it down when the day is quieted down, and I can get my water in. So drinking water, having my devotional, and working out, those are 3 really core principles for me.
Yeah.
Of kind of setting my day, trying to take care of myself mentally, physically. I actually have one of my mental that my grandkids will love about me is that I do 2 games in the morning. I do a word game and I do a numbers game with solitaire. I have literally now been playing solitaire for, it's almost embarrassing to say, 10 years.
Oh.
Every morning I play at least one solitaire game.
That's fun, though.
It's fun
Yeah.
for me. It's fun.
Keeps
It's
you fresh.
competitive.
Yeah.
It gets my mind going when if I wake up groggy and I'm not ready for anything else or I don't want to think something deep.
Yeah.
I just pop on my solitaire game. I get that little game out of the way, and I quite often play more than one, but I at least play one.
You can't stop.
So there's two little games too, kind of getting my mind going and
Yeah.
getting ready for the day, and then so those are my morning things that I do. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think everybody has that one piece of the day, whether it's morning or evening, where they just need their time to really focus on filling their cup so that they're able to, achieve all of the other things throughout the day. So mine is also the morning. That's important for me. Before anybody else is up, that's my time.
Yeah.
So I also have to ask, of course, what you're doing to continue to grow. Is there anything in particular right now that you're learning about, something you're exploring?
I am working together with a mentor from my earlier, actually she was the very first Bible study I ever went to. She was there, and then we met like 50 years later again, that we've met up recently, and she has inspired me in a lot of ways. So developing my ability to mentor and give back is something I'm focusing on right now in my life. So because I've never done it intentionally.
Yeah.
So now I'm like looking at it, am I doing it successfully?
Yeah.
Am I just chatting, and am I just talking, or am I using a skill like to help bring other people along? So that's something I'm working on.
That fits perfectly with building relationships. That's what I feel like we just came full circle.
Yeah. The other thing I had written down about what I do in my life is, I think and you've taught me to verbalize this or articulate it, is having core values for myself personally, and those are what I use now to make decisions. So, and I think I've always done in my life, but I don't know that I articulated. But because as early on as when I started that career, when I was moving from data entry into the operations side of the business, the first thing I asked and of my employer was, I said, I can give you 100% when I'm here, but my family has to be first. And so we crafted my hours, and they allowed me to craft my hours so that I could be home with my children before and after school. But while I was there, it was 100%, if not more. Carrie Dunstan would say you can't give more than 100%. So I always hesitate when I say more than 100%. But on whatever else needed to be done, I was able to do it on my own time. So that has always been a guiding principle for me, is God first, keeping myself grounded in what I believe is true and honest and just, and then my family, helping to have my children have healthy and happy lives and be productive in their callings, and then myself, and my husband. So.
But I think that's also why we get along so well, because we share those values.
Yeah.
And I understand what you're saying about maybe you had those same values before, but you weren't necessarily expressing them in the way that you are today, and talking about them and looking for alignment and decision making. But it was obvious that your family came first, and you expressed that to them. Yep. You maybe just hadn't thought about the fact that it was because it was a core value.
Yeah. And it just helps to make, when you're clear on what are the most important things in your life, then when the many opportunities to serve even come. Like I remember at one point when my children were little, and I'd gotten involved in the PTO, and that was great, right? It's a really good thing to serve in the community and to help serve in their school. But I realized there was this point, there was an event that was going to go, and it was taking so much time. I realized I'm leaving my kids, and I'm not helping them with their homework tonight because I'm off doing something for the school.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense to me. And so I stepped back from doing as much, so that it was not taking away but only enhancing what I could do for them. And so I watch that now as well. Like there's so many opportunities I could jump into to serve. And so I have to look at what protects my time to make sure that I have the time I need with my husband, my children, and my work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Even within my work, there's so many directions I could go.
Yeah.
It's hard sometimes to narrow down what is the most effective thing for me to be doing to help the chamber be the most effective in the community. And so looking at our core values for the chamber itself really helped to draw me into, okay, that's a great cause, but that's not my cause, right? My cause is helping the business community. And so I try to work really hard to stay focused on what's enhancing the business community.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So as we're closing up, any final words about the power of relationships and networking in order to achieve personal and professional growth, as well as opportunities for your business?
Relationship is the word. I mean, I think our community is so wonderfully an example of that. We often find that people will come to our community from other places and say, there's just something so different here. And we define that as we're relational.
Yeah.
We're not transactional, we're relational. And we see the value of developing deep relationships and the beauty that brings to all of our life. It makes for a rich life when you have a deeper relationship, and it's not just superficial, and it's not just about making a buck.
Yeah.
It's about what can I do to serve and help you and grow you, and that's what makes the community so rich.
Yeah, I think it is interesting when I go to a networking event that's not necessarily in our community, and when I spend the time asking questions about the other person, what I can do to support them, and they've never met me before, and there have been times they'll look at me like, why are you asking what you can do to support me? We don't know each other, right?
Yeah.
But that's what it's about.
Yeah.
It can't be self-serving. You're not going to build a relationship just to get something out of it. You're building a relationship because you truly care about the person. You want them to be successful and help them grow. Yeah. And it really does make our community different.
Yeah. So I think that's the key. Is relationship building is and caring and service.
Yeah.
Are the key to that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time, and thank you for all you've done to support me in growing my business and growing professionally as well. You've been a great model for me, and you've been there since early on. I mean, joining the chamber at the very, very beginning of my business and being able to be a part of some of the efforts and now giving back and supporting other people. It's been a big part of my business.
Well,
so
it's
thank
a
you.
privilege to watch you grow. You inspire me daily at the way that you push yourself to get out and do the uncomfortable and
like this
and plant the seeds and try something new. And I'm really proud of you as well.
Aw, thank you. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for listening in today. I hope you found value in today's podcast. And as I mentioned earlier, I would challenge you to really think about being intentional in the relationships that you're building, ways in which you're pouring into other people can add value to them, and looking for the value in people around you and bringing people around you that can support you in the areas that might not be a strength for you. So please let us know if there's something that you've learned from this and applied. We want to hear how you're using it in your lives, personally or professionally. As always, these podcasts are dropped on Friday at noon Eastern Standard Time on Spotify and YouTube, and then you can find them on other platforms on Saturday and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us today, and until next time, keep branching out.